In all your years as a paramedic and trainer, you must have been asked some interesting questions.
Well, yes, Mel, we do get a lot of interesting questions, so I'm more than happy to answer anybody's questions. There's no such thing as a silly question, okay? No such thing as a silly question. If you want to know the answer, just ask. Nobody's going to laugh at you, just ask.
The first question is, when you do CPR, you're breathing your air into someone else. You breathe out carbon dioxide. So how does that help?
Thanks, Mel. Yeah, that does come up a lot. Yes, we are giving somebody carbon dioxide when we breathe into them, but we are also giving them a percentage of oxygen. The reason why it works is the air that we all inhale now, it's mainly nitrogen, but there is about 21% oxygen in that air. So you inhale a lot of things, but about 21% oxygen. When you exhale, there is still about 16% oxygen that you breathe out, which means you've only used 5%. So if we were to breathe our 16% of oxygen into a patient, yes, they are getting carbon dioxide, but the red blood cells will only pick up the oxygen molecules. Doesn't worry about anything else. It's only picking up the oxygen molecules, and there's 16% there. They only need 5%, so that's why it works. We breathe them. We're giving them oxygen that they desperately need.
Well, that makes sense. I didn't know that. Our next question is from someone who says they would be worried about breaking someone's ribs if they did CPR on them. Can you really damage them?
The answer is yes. In most cases, yes. Doing compressions on a human body, it's a very brutal thing to do. We're pushing very hard into the chest. We're pushing at least 5 centimetres into somebody's chest. What we're trying to do is we're trying to compress the heart in between the sternum, this bone here, and the backbone, the spine. We're trying to squeeze the heart in between those two. Now, all of this bony structure is here in the body, the ribs, etc., is to protect the internal organs. And we're trying to get to them. So something will have to let go. And it often does with a bit of noise. On a younger person, typically up to the 20-ish, there's no cut-off time. But if you start doing CPR or start doing compressions on a younger person, late teens, early 20s, you're generally going to hear some tearing or popping sounds, and they're a bit loud. What it usually is cartilage. Between the sternum and the ribs, there's cartilage, and when you press, you just tore it. But it's okay, it's not a big deal. If the patient survives, that's going to be a distant memory in about 4 weeks. It's just a soft tissue injury. The treatment for that is paracetamol and rest. On an older person, you're going to get a lot more noises. You're going to get a whole lot of cracking sounds. And it sounds like teeth grinding very loudly. Now, it will peter out after about 8 or 10 of those, but what that is ribs. And you just crack them. But they crack on the sides. And if you're doing it correctly, they'll crack on both sides, but they just crack. They don't snap off and cause any traumatic injuries. They don't come out and do things. They don't stick into anything else. They just crack. They're just a little bit more flexible once they've cracked. It's a bit easier to push then. And again, if the patient survives, they're just cracked ribs. That'll be a distant memory in about 6 to 8 weeks. The treatment for cracked ribs is paracetamol and rest. So yeah, we're not trying to achieve the loudest noise, Mel, but there's going to be noise there. That is how you know that the patient actually needed the CPR. If they haven't tried to defend themselves against you doing that, you're on the right track. They need it. Keep going until they tell you to stop or till a doctor tells you to stop. Again, don't be afraid of it. Things will crack, but there's a good chance we'll actually save that person's life.
Ouch. Well, if it can save their life, no need to be too worried. Next, we have several listeners asking about shocking someone back to life with an AED. The main concern is electrocuting someone and accidentally killing them, or hurting themselves or other helpers because they aren't trained to be doctors or paramedics. This one worries me too.
An automated external defibrillator. Firstly, it is not medical equipment. An AED is first aid equipment. They are designed so that anybody can use them. You don't need to be specifically trained. You just need to turn it on and do what it says. The machine makes the decisions, not you. It is not going to make a mistake. The AED is only programmed to find what's called a shockable rhythm, an electrical rhythm within the heart that needs to be shocked back to a normal rhythm. This is another common misconception people have about AEDs. They do not start the heart. That is what happens in movies. It is complete fiction. You cannot restart a heart that has stopped. If it's dead, it is dead. You can't fix dead. What the AED does is it tries to reboot the heart, because when somebody goes into cardiac arrest, their heart rhythm changes from pumping blood, boom, 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 boom. It goes into what's called fibrillation. And fibrillation is just a fancy medical word that means twitching uncontrollably. The whole heart just twitches. It's not squeezing blood anymore, it's just twitching. In order to stop that, you shoot electricity through it using a thing called a defibrillator. The heart is fibrillating, we stop it with a defibrillator. And that shocks the heart and stops it. Doesn't start it, it stops it. So it's fibrillating, put electricity through it to stop it, and hopefully it'll come back on in the correct sequence. As I said, we're just trying to reboot it. But the machine makes the decision, not you. It's not going to accidentally shock anything. It's only looking for that shockable rhythm. So with an AED, put it on and do what it says. It's not going to cause any harm. It's not an enormous amount of electricity going through it. It's a very small amount of power going between those two pads. So just put it on and do what it says. You may just save a life if you were to do that. Please, Mel, tell people, don't be afraid of AEDs, don't be afraid of CPR. They save lives.
Oh, wow. You make it sound easy. A lot of callers saying, though, that they would be scared to do any first aid because doctors do years of study and training to do this, and they're not confident they can be as good as a doctor.
Yes, Mel, that comes up a lot. No, I can't do first aid. I'm not a doctor. Well, that's okay. Doctors do medicine. You can do first aid. You don't need to be a doctor to do first aid because first aid is what you do first, before any medical help is available. You don't have to fix things. Doctors fix things. Doctors diagnose problems and fix them. First aid, we're not trying to fix the problem. We're trying to stop it getting any worse, particularly if it's a major problem like a cardiac arrest or a major bleed or something like that. We're not fixing it. We're trying to stop it getting any worse so the doctor can fix it. So that is why it's called first aid. We do it first. It's not complicated. Basically, all we're trying to do is keep the patient breathing, stop any bleeding, and don't let anything else move so it doesn't lead to one of those two. So if you cannot think of what to do in an emergency situation in order to keep somebody alive, that's where you start. Keep them breathing, stop the bleeding, and stabilize everything else. If somebody is not breathing, they're getting CPR. Nothing else is important. They need CPR. If somebody is breathing but they're bleeding a lot, we need to plug up all the holes and stop the blood coming out, stop the bleed. Then after that, we can don't let anything else move. The only time that those two things reverse is if somebody is bleeding so much that that has caused them to go into cardiac arrest. It's called a life-threatening hemorrhage. Somebody is bleeding profusely and you start doing CPR on them, and every time you push, some bloods come squirting out. Stop pushing, plug up all the holes, and then get back to the pushing again. But in most cases, that is not the problem. Somebody is not breathing, they need CPR. Somebody who's bleeding, we need to plug up all the holes and stop the blood coming out, and then just don't let anything else move so it doesn't get any worse. So you don't need to be a doctor. Doctors do first aid as well, but you don't need to be. We're just trying to stop things getting worse so that the doctor can fix the problem. Do not be afraid of first aid, Mel. Anybody can do it. It's not that scary.
Somehow I had a feeling you were going to make that sound easy. Well, thank you, Tony. I think we can all be a little more confident now. First aid is nothing to be afraid of, and it can certainly help a loved one, and maybe even save a life. I hope you can come back again and do a Q&A for us.